Welcome to Roadmap to 1 Million. My name is Stacey Zeal, and if you're looking to make more money, gain your time back, and rapidly grow your visibility so that you can impact way more people with your brilliance, you're in the right place. This podcast is your one-stop shop for turning your online business dreams into a reality. My main goal is to give women entrepreneurs just like you the marketing strategies, guidance, and expert insights you need to hit that $1 million milestone and beyond. Whether you're a coach, a consultant, or an online brand that wants to make a big impact, Roadmap to 1 Million gives you the actionable strategies and inspiration you need so that you can implement right away, no fluff, no fuss. So CEO, are you ready to buckle up and accelerate your growth? Be sure to follow the show and let's dive in. Get ready to uncover your roadmap to 1 million. Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. Are you doing all the things but hit a revenue ceiling? You're building an audience, you're creating content and making sales, but you feel like something is holding you back from your next milestone. If that sounds like you, it's time to take our What's Your Missing Marketing Link quiz, your go-to tool to identify what's missing from your marketing strategy that might be holding back your business growth. Whether it's fixing your funnel or diversifying your efforts, this quiz will pinpoint those marketing missteps and guide you to success. Take the quiz today and uncover the missing link in your path to 7 figures and beyond. So head over to staceyzeal.co/quiz because success begins with identifying and fixing those mistakes. So don't miss out. Your business deserves to have the impact you desire. Visit staceyzeal.co/quiz. That's STACYZEAL.co/quiz to get a detailed report and the resources you need to help you grow. All right, let's jump back into the episode. All right, y'all. Welcome to the Roadmap to 1 Million podcast. My name is Stacey. I am your host, and I am excited for you to be here. I feel like I haven't recorded a podcast episode in a minute, y'all. So I'm excited to have Brittany on the Brittany Harper on our show today because she's going to be talking all about hiring for scale. Like, you can tell by the title, we're thinking like, if you're in that space where you are looking to grow, you're making sales, you're making money, you're ready to take things to the next level, but you're just like, capacity is your biggest problem, or how you're thinking about what your team needs to look like, a year, 2, 3 years down the line. And so we have an expert here who's going to be talking all about that. She's the founder and CEO of Recruiting on Social. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome Brittany to the show and let her introduce herself, tell y'all a little bit about her. But welcome to Roadmap to 1 Million. Brittany, how are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the invite. I think we're in like recruitment season, so to speak. So this is really good.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, what you do, all the things,
Yeah.
wherever you want to kind of start. But yeah, just tell us a little bit about your journey to where you're at.
Oh man, sure. So I am the founder of Recruiting on Social. So what is that, right? So Recruiting on Social is I pretty much teach small and medium businesses how to, like we're going to talk about today, how to hire to scale, and how to prepare their businesses for that. What does that look like? And so I think this journey kind of started. I've worked with businesses of all sizes or in businesses of all sizes. So I've worked from, let's just say, hospital systems in HR to retail in HR, with startups in HR. And at some point, I was like, they all have a lot of similarities in terms of what their needs are as it comes to talent acquisition. And then small businesses always seem to be behind the curve a little bit. And we are now in a space where, in order to compete, right, we're not far from each other, but in order to compete for top talent, there's just certain things that you need to know to be able to bring people on in confidence that they listen, that they want to work for you, that they're going to work for you and stay with you. There's no need for high turnover, and for smaller businesses, and it can be tough. And so I said, listen, I want to help. I want to help solve some of those problems. And so Recruiting on Social was birthed. Um, Something I've done. I've consulted for quite a bit. I've been in HR, man, going on 17 years. But Recruiting on Social has been my baby for the last couple, just kind of really quietly, right? So we have business friends that we do things quietly for, as we work for larger corps. And it is official. I officially am recruiting on social like every day, all day.
Yes, we love that. We love that. Love that. Yeah, so I'm excited to I always get excited when I have guests on that, like, kind of did the whole like corporate thing and did the whole like, workplace kind of stuff, acquired the skills, and then are like, now I need to teach people how to do it. Now I want to run my own
Yeah.
business. That's really kind of how, things went for me as well. So let's start by like setting the scene on what does it mean, or what do you mean when you say, and what should we be thinking about when we say, and we're thinking about hiring for long-term growth? Like what does that even mean?
Yeah, so from a corporate standpoint, you have to think when someone hires, they're hoping for three times the return on investment for that employee, right? So if you hire somebody and you're paying them 10,000, you're hoping to make at least 30,000 back by them joining your team. And so we really have to look at it from that landscape of scaling. So when you talk about scaling to or hiring to scale, even if you're bringing someone on, people get really, freaked out about the numbers of it, right? Like how do I bring on an employee and I'm spending an extra 40 or $50,000 to have this person? But that person and the value that that person should be bringing to your business should be about three times that person's salary. And so that should give you the comfort, right, to be able to hire. But that only works if you're prepared for that person and if you have the ecosystem, right, for them to work in and thrive in so that you can get your best return on investment.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you said that, you want to get a 3x ROI on that employee, because that's something I hadn't really, considered or thought about. Because when I've been approaching hiring, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I want somebody to free up my time so that I can go out and make more money. And so is that like kind of the same thing, or am I looking at
Yeah.
that incorrectly?
So, yes, so your time has a financial value to it, right? And so if you can go out and get $100,000 contract because this person was able to take 10 tasks off of your desk, their ROI is there, right? And so how you decide or what KPIs you use to decide that, totally up to you, but just making sure that you are considering that. And so as you're taking either task off of your plate, or if you're having them do new things to bring in new business, all of that has a measurable thing or a dollar amount to it that you should be able to look at year over year and say, this was a good hire. It was worth it. We've been able to make growth. And so scaling has to be measurable. That's the first thing. And so when we talk about hiring to scale, we have to find things that we need that could be a measurable difference in our companies in order for it to make sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love what you said, that like scaling has to be measurable, because it just applies to so many different facets of business. I think so many people
Yeah.
get caught up in this, scaling as a buzzword, like, oh yeah, I'm ready to scale, I'm ready to scale, I'm ready to scale. But are you really ready to
Are
scale,
you really?
or are you just trying to, grow? Because
Hmm.
scaling, like you said, requires measure. It means it's measurable, meaning like you can
Yeah.
actually say like this output netted XYZ, right? Or this
Mhm.
person or this employee brings in a certain amount of business. And therefore, if I can take that, that person and replicate them, therefore I can see that I can
Yeah.
bring in, whereas this person brings in 30,000, I can replicate that. And then this person will bring in another 30,000. And now we're at 60, and we can, replicate that. So I think that that's so important to discuss. And one of the other things I think I would love to get your take on, and in terms of this, is like, how do we know, or how do we balance the need for hiring for immediate kinds of things and short term, kinds of
Mhm.
growth versus those long term strategic hires? And I ask that because like I operate an agency, and some other people listening to agencies and have, other people who are delivering their work, whether it's an agency or you're a lawyer and you have other lawyers on your team, or, you have other coaches on your team or something like that. Right. And so I can see that definitely as a clear line of like, this is a long-term hire. I want somebody to come in. But how do you determine or figure out, like, do I need to hire somebody just as for a one-off project? Do I hire a person for just this client? Like, how do you help your clients think about, like, is this next person that I'm hiring a long-term hire, or do I need to fill a short-term need, and then think about, kind of longevity later?
Yeah, so it that really is dependent upon your 5-year strategic plan. So businesses that do not have a 5-year strategic plan, for me, that is an indicator that you may be ready to grow, but you're not ready to scale, right? So I need to know if you do have a 5-year strategic plan, where are you? Are you in year 2 or year 3 of that? And then like what are those pit stops? What are those like those points that you want to stop and like, okay, what did we accomplish? And so if you have a 5-year strategic plan, it should include hiring, right? And there will be tasks that you know that have either that you've either created that you need to help sustain the business as it is. And then there are going to be like those one-off tasks that will help you like to boost you in a moment. So when I think of that, like implementing a new thing may require a project manager for a short period of time, but then sustaining that new thing is something that we want to plan for long term. So two totally different things, but both are correct, right? So there are people that like, hey, I need a project manager, and I'm like, okay, so once the project is implemented, then what? Who's going to run this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And if a person needs to run it, or if we're having AI run it, or whatever that may look like, that's something that's going to cost you something, and we just need to figure out what that is so that we can plan for it. So, what are the things that are going to sustain your business? Really helps us to decide who are we hiring, because you want to hire people who are managers of those things. And then we're looking at the next part of that is then hiring thought leaders to take that thing to the next level, right? You want someone who can understand it, sustain it, and then are they going to be a thought leader to help you move it to the in the right direction?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. So recapping that, right, y'all, like making sure we have that 5-year plan, because that 5-year plan will start to help you to understand, like, is this something that I see being a part of my business for the long term? Or is it something that, is just getting us through this season that we're in right now, right? Like, do we just really need, somebody to come in and set up, our operations and set up, help us to clean up our operations and stuff like that, for a one-time thing, and then it can be automated, with the goal of it being automated and being able to, be run, independent of another person needing to do it? Or is it like I, want to eventually have a copywriter on my team, so maybe
Yeah.
now I hire somebody short term, for to do these copy projects,
Hmm.
but within the next couple of years or the next year or so, wherever I'm at, I plan on having a full-time copywriter. So let me, prepare for that now and think through that now. Did I kind of get that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I'll add to that, right? So, because that was a really good example. So, like hiring, deciding what you need short term versus long term is also how much money are you spending, right? So, if you're spending a significant amount of money and time on this, and this person is working in your business consistently, it's like, okay, you're probably spending more money to hire them as an outside contractor than to hire someone full time, right? So, typically, a full time hire should reduce the cost,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right?
Okay.
And so if you have a contractor right now, or you're using an outside service, typically what should happen is when you bring someone on board to take on some of those tasks, it really should be a cost saving measure to bring them on board in some way, shape, or form, right? So if the ROI is like, listen, this person is essential to our business. We send out, 300 emails a day, and they all have to be formatted a certain way, and we're on several different socials, whatever that, and we update our website, weekly, monthly, whatever. And this person, you're spending a lot of money having this person contracted. It's like, okay, now we need to consider bringing someone in-house, and what does that mean for us? Because we want someone with our brand voice, right? That's not something that we want to share with other companies. And so those things become really important in deciding bringing someone on, and then trying to listen and try to scale back the cost of that as much as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. I love all that. That's like, I wanted the, what a light bulb for me was that the full-time hire should reduce the cost. And
Yeah.
the reason that that sticks out for me is because I'm at that point now where I'm like, okay, it's recommended by my business coach that I hire a full-time person. And I'm like, wait a minute now, like I'm the only full-time person. I mean, I have, other part-time people, But I'm like, hold on,
Hmm.
like, am I mentally ready
Yeah.
for this? Right? Am I mentally ready to have somebody,
Hmm.
banking, somebody's life relying on me, right?
Yeah.
Doing what I'm doing, right? And so, and it makes me think about like, can I also afford, to hire
Yeah.
somebody full time? And when you
Hmm.
said that it reduces the cost, I'm thinking like, wow, like, yeah, because if I have somebody full time dedicated to, specific, like to client delivery, for example, this is the area that I'm
Yeah.
talking about specifically, is client delivery. So if I have somebody full time dedicated to client delivery, that frees up my time to be able to go and make more money and to be able to
Yeah.
train more people to, train that person up and, get them and upskill them and stuff like that. And it reduces my cost of having to go outside and find
Yeah.
people to do certain things.
Yes.
So I
And
love that.
that's
That's a
time and
great point.
money. Yeah, and that's
Mhm.
time and money that you have to like you focus on your area. I think that one of the mistakes that a lot of business owners make initially is they want to replace themselves.
Mm.
And that is not true. That is
Mhm.
false. So the first person you're looking to hire or even bring on full time isn't necessarily a replacement for you, but someone who can either do the sustainable task and or someone who because you're the thought leader, like you don't need another thought leader, right? Typically, what you need initially is a task rabbit type person or a goal or a goal oriented type of person who can just do the things.
Yeah.
Most people like, oh, you'll just end up having a conversation with another amazing thought leader and nothing's still getting done. Right. So you don't want to hire that person because you are that person, right? But you just need to hire someone to really carry out those things initially, and that should reduce your costs and increase your revenue.
Yeah. I want, if you are hiring for the first time, or like you're hiring your next, maybe you have someone on your team, one person on your team, you're hiring that next person, or you're, in that like replace yourself mode. I'm gonna need y'all to go back and to listen to that again, because I promise you that that is like so spot on, because I made that exact mistake. Right.
Yeah.
And then you realize that your time is not freed up, or you don't
Mhm.
have more, you don't have, you're not necessarily replacing yourself. You are just creating another job for yourself, because
Yeah.
now um somebody still has to execute, and somebody still has to, like, for me, like, I now I'm at a place where we're about to, hire again, to add somebody to, like you were saying, to have somebody who's an executor,
Yeah.
because I hire somebody who was another me, and she's
Yeah.
fantastic and she's amazing, and now I'm like, okay, but I'm doing the project management, right? And now I need to get somebody to do
And
the
we have
project
these
management and the
amazing
coordination and
conversations.
stuff.
Yeah. And then like you just have a bulletin board of all of these amazing ideas because you guys are like bouncing off each other and you're being super creative. But then it's like, okay, so who's actually gonna do these things?
Yeah.
And that is where like we get into like analysis paralysis because you've hired someone who is either a great thought leader like you or who's helping you to like dissect all of these things of your business, but nothing's still getting done, or not at least at the rate that we're talking about scaling to,
Yes.
right? We have to
Yes.
find people who are doers to help us scale, and then we can create an environment for thinkers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important. Like, I definitely, when I talk to people about their marketing team, because when I think about, like, especially if you're a solopreneur and you're looking to hire a marketing assistant, or, something like that, that the first role that you should hire for is someone who is an executor or a doer, right? Somebody
Mhm.
who is going to schedule your social media posts, who's going to be able to schedule the emails to go out, who's going to be able to update the landing pages, all the thing, right? Like, you need
Mhm.
somebody who's doing the stuff, but then that
Yeah,
means that you're the strategist, right? Like, because the
yeah,
because the doer needs strategy, and that's what I think
yeah.
people kind of get incorrect, because they think that they can hire a marketing assistant and then that person's going to run their whole marketing department and they're going to be a marketing
Hmm.
manager. And the reason I know that is because I've been hired to be that person, and you're a junior marketer, and you're responsible for this entire marketing department, and you
Hmm.
are so focused on trying to figure out how to make sure that you get stuff out right
Yeah,
that you're not thinking about strategy, and you haven't even
yeah,
developed that strategy mind yet. And so I
yeah.
think that it's so important, like what you were saying, is to make sure that you're balancing doers versus thinkers on your team.
Hmm. Yeah, so initially in like what you're saying, right? So initially you're going to contract another thinker, but hire a doer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're talking about scaling your business, you want to contract another thinker who has a level of expertise in an area that you do not. So you want to contract that person because that person's going to give you the strategy in an area that you're not strong in, and that person is going to help train your doer, right? And so it's like, oh, I'm spending a lot of money. Yeah, but the return on investment is going to be there. So it's like, hey, we're going to meet with Stacy, and we're
Mhm.
going to have these amazing, like 3 or 4 meetings with Stacy, and she's going to give us some great strategy on how to market. And then from there, my assistant or whoever is going to join these meetings, and they're going to learn and glean from Stacy. We're going to create the SOPs because that's the other part that a lot of businesses are missing, right? We're going to create the SOPs and take notes, right? We're going to take notes, and then we're going to have this person actually execute the things so
Mhm.
that Stacy then can tell us where we need to pivot, or we have data that we can work with, because she's going to be our temporary thought leader until we're able to hire a permanent one, as the business grows.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Contract thinkers, hire doers. And that's really like what you were describing is really how we work with our clients as the fractional CMO. In a
Yeah,
sense that, like, all of our clients come to us when they already have a team of doers, whether that's one person, or they have a couple people on their team. We require doers. And because what I'm
yeah,
giving you is strategy and direction and training, and all of that stuff is really important, to make sure that
mhm,
you can like have someone that comes into your business and sees beyond what you see. Because we, as a CEO, sometimes we can have tunnel vision. Like I know
yeah,
exactly who my client is. I know why
hmm,
my offer is amazing. I know all the
yeah.
things about my business and my people, but how is it being received, right? Like how are they seeing it? So I love that. So tell us a little bit about, because we've talked about um getting the role of like growing the team and
Hmm.
bringing in new people. I want to talk about and switch gears a little bit to talk about retention, because that's
Okay.
also something that I see as kind of being in, especially in the agency space, and some of the some other business owners that I've talked to. They've been saying that it's either hard to keep people. So what
Mhm.
are some things that business owners, particularly small business owners, because that's when we're listening here, we're not, mostly of us are not corporations. So we do have limited budgets and limit constraints and things
Yeah.
that we do. So how do you talk to small business owners about thinking about retention when it comes to scale and thinking like long term for their business?
Yeah, so I think part of it is especially when you're building your core team. So when I say core team, if you have like less than 10 employees, right? Because essentially they become your as your business grows, they become your leaders. So if you have a team of 4 to 10, the first part is knowing who you've hired, right? Because essentially most people don't leave a job without some sort of plan, right? And so like learning your people becomes increasingly important. So typically what I do for small business owners is I have the business owner do a disc assessment. And so we want to establish who you are. And then we want to build a team around your strengths and weaknesses, right? So then there's more synergy there. Essentially, we want to create a team that has great synergy. Most people are more apt to stay when they feel appreciated, and people don't feel appreciated. If you do my job and we're doing the same job, there's going to be some friction there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we want to find ways that we are one creating synergy and harmony with each other, and what value requires reciprocity, right? So if they're bringing you value, then what are you giving them? Right. So reciprocity is typically why people can't retain people because people are like, I work here, but I don't get nothing out. I'm not getting anything out of this. Right. And so like how are you giving back to your people? Bless you. How are you giving back to your people? Um, is increasingly important, especially in today's age where people want to know how do you feel about, social issues and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then And then I think the other part for me is just communication. How are you all communicating? I think I've seen quite a few business, even larger business, so I would say up to like 50 employees. A lot of their issue in terms of retention is just people aren't communicating effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So you may be saying one thing, but some people are hearing something totally different. And so we have to make sure that we are sharing information, we are sharing business changes, business growth, and sharing opportunities for growth in a way that folks can understand it, right? People will get on board with a plan as long as they understand the plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to get folks to kind of buy into you and to buy into your business if they don't understand it or if it's just a paycheck for them. So
Mm-hmm.
we really want to dig deeper. And so one, I use this to kind of help folks to understand who they are, who their team members are, and what's motivating their team members to work you know, personal things that they may or may not have going on that may be factors for them needing another job that's not working with you. Because essentially it costs, right? It costs it costs about a third of a person's salary to replace them. So we
Mm,
talk about being 3 times ROI when you get someone, but it costs about a third to replace them. So let's just say the average person, if they make $36,000, we're talking about it's going to cost you 12 grand, and that's a lot of money.
yeah.
It's going to cost you 12 grand to replace that person between advertising, time, listen, time spent, retraining, all of that is expensive. And so it's going to cost you a third to replace the person. It's best that we spend at least some of those funds to retain that person than to have to replace them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important. So I'm gonna read a couple of those things that you said just to give people get people thinking. One, when it comes to retention, one, you want to make sure you're learning your people. That definitely is like super, super important. The disc assessment. I love strength tests. I love learning about myself. I
Mhm.
want to do the disc. I haven't done disc. I did the Clifton
Yeah.
Strengths.
Okay.
And I had my operations manager do the Clifton Strengths, and then I'm gonna
Mhm.
have my next two team members do the Clifton Strengths. And do you recommend people do disc assessments and those kinds of assessments before they make the offer to somebody, or is it something that they do after to just kind of see after they hire
It
somebody?
really depends. I mean, one, that depends on budget. But if you felt like if you did several rounds of interviews or whatever have you, and you're like, this person could really be my person, I would say go ahead and hire them. But one of the first things you want to do before you all kind of get into the nitty-gritty of things is you want to have a good understanding of one another. And
Mm,
so, DISC or any of the personality type of test will really help you to assess that on a deeper level so that you can plan accordingly. So
mhm.
don't wait until 90 days. You're like, I don't know if this person was a good fit. This might have been a bad hire. Do it very soon after, and then you can adjust the training, right? You can adjust your training. You can adjust your communication very early on before you've wasted money.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. So yeah, so back with retention, making sure that we are checking out for overlapping roles and even having like roles clearly defined. I've had clients who've come
Yes.
to me and their marketing team's roles aren't clearly defined. Like,
Yeah.
everybody like they have a title, yes, but they're not sure where does my job start and where
Mhm.
does the other person's job pick up. And so
Yeah.
that's definitely important to have like those, clearly defined roles, who's doing what, but
Mhm.
then also making sure that you have, when you create SOPs for your marketing, like indicating what position is doing what, right? Like,
Yeah.
for us, for example, with content creation and like creating content and getting it out is a multi-person job. So I create the content. It goes into the
Mhm.
content calendar. My, assistant, she goes in, she, schedules things out and all that kind of stuff, right? And so, I have to make sure that she knows that once I put it in the calendar and I,
Mhm.
mark it as a certain thing, then that's an indicator for she knows that's where she picks up, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important. I think that that's another one to hit on as well. And how are you like giving back, making you so that you have that transparency, there and who you're supporting and that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
how business is changing, those kinds of things. We started doing town halls in our business like once, on the first Monday of the month, just so that I can get the team together and just say like, hey, like this is what, this is what we're focused on September,
Yeah.
and this is what we're, what's coming up, all that kind of good stuff. And then the biggest one I think you hit on definitely was communicating. And
Yeah.
like you said, people will get on board with the plan when they understand it. So I think that that's definitely a quotable right there, and understanding what's driving them. Because I have,
Yeah.
people on my team who are driven by impact, right? They're not necessarily,
Mhm.
they're paid, they get a paycheck from somebody else, right? Their bigger paycheck from somebody else, right? But the money
Yep.
that they make here is not necessarily for, is not necessarily supporting their lifestyle. It's more so,
Yeah.
they want to be making an impact and work more closely with clients and stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
that's what's driving them, not necessarily the money. So I love all that. Anything else that you feel that we haven't talked about that any of our small business owners out there need to know when it comes to hiring, retention, or anything like that when it comes to scaling their business for the long term?
Yeah, um I think training is also like a key component. So one of the things we teach how to hire, train, and retain um candidates. And so for us, I think the training piece is also, very important because a lot of people they get frustrated with training or lack of training. And so just making sure like one, you do have SOPs. So it's like you want to bring someone on, but there's no record of what you do right now. Like there's no way that there's no a tangible record. And here's a and us so being able to delegate, what I'm looking for. I'm looking for I have a workbook. I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is. Um and so like one of the things we could like, hey, like it's a delegation trainer, like just how to set up your SOPs, how to like if something happens, this is what you do next. And so a lot of times small business owners can't step away from their business because there's no manual, like there's nothing tangible or there's nothing online that says, hey, if you click here and that doesn't happen, you're supposed to click here next. Like there it just doesn't exist. And so they are constantly getting calls and text messages and emails about like next steps. And that can be very frustrating for someone who's new. Listen, and who is very competent because you've hired a very competent person, but they just need the manual on how to do things for your company, right? They're not necessarily looking to do it at how they did it at the last place unless it's a new thing. And so that's a thought leader thing. That's not a doer thing. Doers want to know, like, hey, where's the manual for that? Can
Mhm.
I flip to page whatever and okay, it's going to tell me how to create blah. Okay, schedules go out where, and I just want to be able to confirm like whatever you taught me. I want to be able to confirm it somewhere so that I feel confident. And so training is really about instilling confidence in your employees to do tasks without micromanagement. Right. And so I tell people you micromanage at the beginning because that's like train, you kind of micromanage, and then you let the leash off. And essentially, the person should be able to essentially go back to whatever their manual is or go back to whatever resources you've provided for them and then do the things. And then you grow them to the point where then they become either a thought leader for you or they're like, okay, now I have suggestions. I can't suggest what I don't know you have or don't have already. And so you want to provide some space for that. And that just really it kicks off with the training.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so essential. I love that you mentioned training. Because that's definitely an area that like when I worked at Zappos, we went had extensive training. Like we had a 30-day,
Yeah.
onboarding process before I
Hmm.
actually was
Hmm.
able to do anything in my department.
Yeah.
And we used to have like training videos on like how to spot phishing emails, how to spot spam, how to spot this, how to do.
Hmm.
So it was, training was definitely an essential part of our everyday, kind of life working in corporate. And so we need to make sure as business owners, we document those things and put those kinds of things in place. And will it, be on the budget of a Zappos? Probably not, like they can, hire people to do the animations and the fun things and make it
Hmm.
all pretty. But having just a Google document of like step by step how to do things is so, so important. It's just, and one thing that I love that you said is that eventually that person will get to a point where they can improve the process, or that person can,
Yeah.
take what you've already given them and say like, hey, here's how we can do it better. Because that's really how we grow. That's how we scale. So this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much, Brittany, for sharing all
No
of this
problem. Can we add
information.
one more thing to that?
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
want to add one more.
absolutely.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing to that. So when we talk about training and development of staff, those are all tax write-offs,
Oh,
right? So even if you're like, I spent $20,000 to get my staff together and to do this and to do all of these things, those are all tax write-offs. So don't think of it as, money spent. It really isn't.
mm-hmm.
Like honestly, it really isn't. Those are all tax write-offs. So I want to be clear about that because I think people get really scared about spending money to train their staff. And that's why Zappos had all of the cute things, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, we spend this money, we're gonna write it off at the end of the year. It's not a big deal. And they're gonna get it back. And you're gonna get it back in your ROI and not in having to pay to hire the same staff to do the same things 6 or 7 months from now.
Yeah, yes, I love that. I'm so glad that you added that because that's definitely important to know for sure. Because I'm like, maybe we
Yes,
can increase the budget on the training because it's a write off. But
it's a
yes, but
write-off.
but tell everybody out there how they can work with you if they want to learn and connect more. Give them all the things and yeah, give them all the things.
Awesome. So yeah, so if you want to find me on LinkedIn, I'm on there, Brittany Harper. You'll see me in this bright orange blazer. Recruitingonsocial.com is the place where you can find all the things and schedule some time to talk to me. Listen, DM me. We are obviously we are social, so we're on social media pretty often. So if not me, one of my VAs or somebody will respond and get you on my calendar for sure. But I look forward to connecting with everyone and answering questions. I love to, if nothing else, be able to do that and to help small businesses to not only hire, but hire so that they can scale.
Yeah, I love all that. Love all that. So thank you so much again for sharing all of that wisdom. It's been fantastic for me. It's been so eye-opening. And so I hope that, all y'all out there got something out of it. And if you did, please make sure you share this with somebody. Make sure you're following the show. Send this over to your biz bestie or someone that you know that is hiring, and give them the information that they need, because hiring is an essential part of our journey, y'all. And I know how marketing is fun. At least for me, marketing is fun. Delivering for clients is fun. Sometimes HR is not the fun part, y'all, but it's essential. And that's why people, like Brittany exists, to be able
Yeah.
to, help us out in the ways that we need it. So if you need any of Brittany's links, they will all be in the show notes. So make sure you head over to the show notes, and check all that stuff out. Otherwise, if you have any feedback, questions, anything, for me, please let me know. Feel free to reach out, to me, and we can chat about our fractional CMO offers, or what you need to hit to your next level. So thanks again for listening to the show. I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. I'll see y'all on next week's episode. OMG, that episode was packed with gems. Are you ready for more? Head over to stacyzeal.co/podcast to get the show notes and to sign up to get our top 5 podcast episodes to help you streamline your marketing so you can make this your $1 million year. Head over to stacyzeal.co/podcast.